Hi, I'm Josh Bell with the Miami Marlins. I wear NeuroGuard to help with strength and coordination when I'm in the weight room and help with balance when I'm on the baseball field.
One of the most comfortable, reduces concussion, increases performance. You can't get a mouthpiece like that on the market.
Not only is it a great product, it's super easy to use. I recommend it for any player at any age at any level. Thank you guys so much, and go check out NeuroGuard Plus.
NeuroGuard mouthpiece makes it easier to breathe while playing basketball. The unique design is not as bulky as any other mouthpiece and makes you feel safe in concussions.
NeuroGuard really control my breathing while I'm riding. It stops me getting concussions while I wreck. It's very easy to use, so go pick one up today.
I'm still doing stunts. And the concussions I've got, I feel much safer with that. I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing a whole lot better in the gym. So NeuroGuard Plus, once this one wears out, you've got a customer for life, because I'm telling you people, NeuroGuard Plus is the way to go, and me, Mark Ash, says so.
Parents, kids, coaches, NeuroGuard. It's the future. Stay tuned.
Brown right, motion, tailback slant. Let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner, all right? On one, ready? Go 13! Coming up, go 13! Hey!
Lots of bright on Friday night.
2A football. Everybody's either playing district or in bye week, and we're here to talk about it. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett, Grant Goodwin here. Sideline to Sideline, the Class 2A edition here on L4 Media, brought to you by NeuroGuard Plus. And how you doing? Had a week
great.
off.
Yeah. Feel refreshed. Anniversary weekend, so came back swinging now. I don't know. I've got a little cold or something.
Yeah, because it's so frosty outside at a cool 94.
A balmy 95 degrees. But it's always cold in the studio.
That's the way I like it, man. And apologize for last week. We were going to do some special stuff with you being out. And then Wednesday, we had to do some of the business side, some really cool news. Can't talk about it yet, but we'll be talking about it here in the future. And then Thursday, Wednesday, speaking of cold, Wednesday I'd fallen asleep, like with stopped up and my mouth open. And when I woke up Thursday, my tonsil, I still have my tonsil, was so swollen that it was touching the back of my tongue. So anytime I try to talk, I'd almost gag. And so I couldn't do any kind of talking for the day. And you even saw it or heard.
Gross.
Anyway, you even heard it a little bit Friday, because it really wasn't until Saturday when it completely went away. I will say this:
sure had no problem. Stepped down at Shobles in Columbus Friday. Sure, you were really sick.
I'm telling you, man, that creamy cheese really helped. I wasn't sick. That was the weird thing. Like I didn't feel bad, other than Thursday when I tried to talk, I would start to, like, how when you have a sore throat, it felt like I was about to throw up. But anyway, speaking of throwing up, no, I'm just kidding. Let's go ahead and jump right into our Class 2A review. We're going to review last week, and of course, we'll preview this week. But where do you want to start?
Let's start at the top of the state. Panhandle 41, Wellington 21. Man, Panhandle is now 5-0. I mean, I don't know. Panhandle's been about as impressive as anybody in Class 2A so far this year, 5 games into the season. Panhandle's quarterback Broxton Robinson runs for 167 yards, throws for 114, and then Walter Shedd runs for 136 yards on 17 carries. Panhandle, they got a big showdown coming up here pretty soon with Sunray, I believe, right?
Yes, they do.
And we might have to make it out to, I believe that's in Sunray.
Yeah, I think it is. We were looking it up on the way in.
We might have to make it out there for that game.
I would have no problem with that. Speaking of Sunray, they beat 3A Power Canadian 30-20, as once again Armando Luan has a great game, throwing for 2 touchdown passes. But more importantly, we don't talk enough about him on defense. 3 interceptions on defense in a game that was back and forth. And Sunray, man, they're brought up a lot on the show because they're good, but also the schedule they have played. You cannot say they're not going to be battle tested when it gets to the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're rolling at 5-0.
Yeah.
With a very tough schedule. They have not dodged anybody.
No, I totally agree.
All right, Beckville 60, Elysian Fields 28.
Just kind of touching back in on Beckville, we haven't really.
Elysian Fields has a big one this week against Union Grove. Let's see if they can bounce back.
Well, and in that district out there, that they're already in week 3 of district play, and I kind of wanted to. We talked Beckville. I wanted to bring up Jordan Prance. 200 yards, 6 touchdowns. It was a big stat week all through 4A, 3A, and 2A. Of course, we'll talk about those on the other show. But yeah, just kind of touching back base with Beckville. I don't know. It just feels like with region, and we'll talk about how Timpson's taking a step back. Cooper's taking a step back. Garrison is still solid. Honeygrove, but they're really beat up. But their district's going to allow them to heal inside district.
Yeah, Honeygrove's going to be okay in district, but man, a couple of key injuries.
Yeah,
key positions. I mean, at quarterback, that's going to be tough for them to overcome region wise, right? I mean that.
But this might be the best year for this. The region's so open.
Dang, if it wasn't for those key injuries, they might be the favorite. But who knows? It's a level playing field now. How about Ozona 34, Miles 28. Miles comes into this game ranked number 8 in 2A Division 2, and Ozona best them by basically a touchdown. Ozona's now 4-1, where they're only lost by a point or 2 to Brady.
Well, yeah, and in that game, Miles was actually up by 2 scores, and Ozona came back and ended up, I think it was 28-12, and Ozona came back and won 34-28. And that was Miles's. They just came into the rankings, and so they're probably back out. And like you said, Ozona is now 4-1. I want to go back to the other region. Wolf City 45, Timpson 28. And I know this is going to be real easy to say, yeah, but Timpson lost J.J. Garner, and he was hurt early in the game. But I watched part of this game Thursday, and I don't know if it's Wolf City's the real deal or Timpson is that down. But yes, Garner was hurt. Yes, he's a huge part of both sides of the ball, but it's now being shown that Timpson has a defensive problem. That they are struggling on defense.
Right.
But I want to turn to Wolf City, who is 3-1, and their only loss is to Collinsville. And we all know what the Pirates are and how good, and they're bouncing back from the loss of everybody offensively last year, and they've kind of transformed themselves from a throwing team into a power running team. But other than that, Wolf City has dominated. And this, in my opinion, was just as much as a statement for Wolf City as it was with Timpson. We know Timpson has some warts this year. But if J.J. Garner's out for any extended time, then Timpson might just be a third-place team.
Yeah, it's church for them.
Yeah.
How about Collinsville? Speaking of Collinsville up on Coleman 52-6. Collinsville outgained Coleman 505 to 174 in total offense. Now undefeated 5-0.
Yeah, and Coleman on the year, give them credit. They've played a tough schedule, but they're struggling this year. They're 0-5, but when you look at it, their losses are to Eastland.
Yeah.
And by the way, Eastland, we'll talk about them. They have bounced back this year finally, and then losing to Collinsville, but they haven't been competitive. And when even if you play good teams, if you're not even in the ballpark, you're not really helping yourself. And again, Collinsville, just able to flip the switch from being last year throwing the ball over the field for 3 years with a stud quarterback to now using more of a power set option style offense. I think that's very impressive.
Yeah. Really good game was out Mart and Bremont, man. Mart beating Bremont 28-22. Mart actually got out to a 20-0 lead in the first quarter. Bremont fights their way back, and the Mart defense had to come up with a couple of fourth down stops fourth quarter to hold off Bremont in this one. What a game.
And we're realizing now, and we say this in the moment every year to begin the season, week ones you can't really pay attention to, but you still do. And when it wasn't that they lost to 3A Whitney, but it was losing as bad as they did, I think it was 35-7 or something like that. You're like, okay. And then they struggled against a good but not great Maypearl team. But since then, man, they've been on a roll. And I know Bremont almost came back, but still huge start to district play for Mart, because, again, it's not just them and Bremont in this district. You've got a solid Gold Wave team. You've got a Wortham team and a Chilton team that's 1-3, but there's still a lot of talent there. So really good start for district for the Mart Panthers.
Yeah, and Mart has Chilton this week.
That's that's one of those games we're going to see. If Mart goes out to 2-0 in this district, then I don't think anybody's stopping them in district.
Yep. All right. You want to go Wink 51, Kahoma 40. Nice win for Wink. Overton 41, Grapeland 36. Overton now 4-1. These were two really good football teams squaring off. And Overton, after getting off to a little bit of a slow start this season, has found their sea legs.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Wink game because, for the last 4 or 5 years, Wink had become this 10-2 team, and they kind of got region locked. And then 2 years ago, they went 12-1, and last year was supposed to be that they felt like, hey, this is going to be our best shot, and they ended up getting beat by Munster in the second round. It wasn't a surprise that they got beat, but Munster kind of beat them pretty bad. And so there was a lot of questions on this Wink team as they pushed through. 14 returning starters, but lost some key guys like Creed Fritz. They have bounced back. They lost week 1. It's the Lubbock Christian. There's nothing wrong with that. Since then, they've won 4 in a row. And so I just wanted to bring that part about. I think Wink is one of those teams that a lot of people wanted to forget about. You talk about Overton and Grapeland. Look, Overton got beat by Alba Golden to start the year, and we were like, well, if you're wanting to be a region power like Overton feels like they can be, you can't do that. But since then, they've been on a roll. They have been really competitive. I'm still waiting to see Overton have that statement win.
Right. Speaking of Lubbock Christian, Stratford takes them down 28-14. Man, Lubbock has not been scared to take on the heavy hitters up in the Panhandle and West Texas area.
No, and that's one of the fun things about like them and Midland Christian is they always will play the 3As and the 2As, and they'll take on anybody. Sorry, this mic's becoming a little bit of an issue here tonight. Hey, what about that Hawley Eastland game? We talked about Eastland and the resurgence they've had. They led for a lot of this game, but then Keegan Abels once again 15 of 20 for 216 yards passing. He also ran for 71 yards. And Hawley, I don't want to say quietly, they're a top 3 team, but still quietly 5-0. I don't think a lot of people are talking about them.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think Eastland's the big one this week. Is it this week?
Yeah, I just had their. Let me go back to that real quick.
Maybe it's not this week. I was looking ahead, maybe.
No, I think it is this. I think they have a solid game. Maybe the Eastland, we're still trying to wait and see. And of course, they're 3A, and we'll talk about them. Yeah, they got Clifton, and Clifton's kind of bounced back this year. But we'll talk about that in the 3A show. Is that it on the?
Yeah, I think that's it on the preview. Yeah, we've got some decent games. There's not a lot of games to choose from, being one of the bye weeks, right? The major bye weeks.
This week and next week is
6A.
Yeah, it's kind of.
But let's start 4-1. Tom Bean takes on 3-2 Tioga. Tom Bean is kind of loaded at on the offensive side of the ball with Bobby Rogers at running back, Donnie Hooten at quarterback, who's thrown for 1,185 yards in 5 games so far.
Yeah,
and then he's got Hooten's got really 2 really good receivers in Brody Pearson and Hagen Darney. So Tioga 3-2, but their 2 losses were pretty good football teams. I like Tom Bean in this one, though.
We were talking before the break. By the way, this is brought to you by Big Country Blitz. You can see their website. Check out bigcountryblitz.com. Cody did a great job for us this year putting our ad in their magazines, and we've gotten people that we've never known listen to the show or watch the show messaging us out from that area, so we appreciate that. But you and I were talking. This is probably legitimately Tom Bean's best team since the Buddy Hansen era. Chad Worrell was the head coach. Of course, 2 years ago they had that controversy where a bunch of players popped up ready to play for them. and like half of them got ruled out and they got suspended for basically recruiting. But Steve Feck's and coaching staff still have a really good team. They returned 20 starters from last year's team. They were playoff ineligible last year. They're playoff eligible this year. They did lose a tough one to Whitewright, but that's fine.
Hey, Whitewright's undefeated right now.
And 6-2A Division I, that top with Tom Bean, with Whitewright, with Trenton, with Wolf City. I mean, and Tioga. I mean, this is one of those games where if Tom Bean goes 0-2, now we're saying, hey, this is a team that could win 12 games. Hey, this is a team that's got to win out just to make the play. And so it's going to be a fun 6-2A Division I season.
Yeah. All right, Alba Golden and Rivercrest. Give me Alba Golden. I think this could be a close one, though.
Yeah, again, we talked about the Panthers started the year. They upset Overton. They got beat by Mount Enterprise the very next week. But since then, they've won 3 straight. But, I mean, it's Ore City, Simbui, and Como Picton. And not Murders Row, but still that really good win against Overton. This, again, going back to talking the whole district, 9-2A Division I. They got started last week. Alba Golden's 1-0. Cooper and Honey Grove are all 1-0. Everybody else 0-1, but Rivercrest. This is Rivercrest's first district game bye last week. And, their wins on the year, kind of like Alba Golden, it's Ore City, Quitman, Clarksville, and they give me the Panthers in this one, but I could see the Rebels pulling this off in a slight upset.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, Mart versus Chilton. Ought to be a pretty good game. I like Mart, though.
Well, yeah, and we go back to how tough this district is, and the Pirates have started off the year 0-1 in district, and Goldway kind of thumped them, and I was a little surprised by that. For Chilton, they've struggled offensively and defensively. This was a team last year that was 13-2, and yeah, they had to replace a lot of players, but they've still got some guys. And they're sitting here, and I remember us talking about, hey, we thought Chilton would be the dark horse of this district, and here we are. They're going to lose to Martin. I think they will. It's going to be a 4-game losing streak, and you're sitting at 0-2 in that district. Again, you start putting
hard to overcome, right? And I think I say this is going to be a good game. I really think Mart's going to kind of name their score, and maybe Chilton can hang in there early. But at the end of the day, I think Mart and Bell, those guys are going to just run roughshod over the Pirates.
And if you're a fan of the Chilton, or if you know something about them, please email us the information about them. Any team that you follow, whether it be 2A, 3A, or 4A, if you'd like to hook us up with some information, all you got to do is email us, Grant and Terry at S2S.com. We rely on people, William Banker, who he sends us all the Grove stuff. And that's how we get information. And we need it at all levels. But man, as we try to tell people, the 2A level, especially, it is so hard to get valid information outside of just basic stats. And even then, that can be hard to. So please help us out. Grant and Terry at S2SSport.com.
All right. Big Sandy versus Beckville. Big Sandy, kind of a surprise that Beckville, seeming like they found their stroke, just might be better than last year, right?
It's crazy to think that, because last year was the team that they focused on as this was our year. We were going to get past the Garrisons, the Timpsons, the Honey Groves, and the Cooper, and they lose such players like Jacoby Williams, Jasper Best, Levi Lagrone, Micah English. I mean, all these guys, and of course Jacoby Williams is already making an impact late in the games, but still getting carries at Texas Tech. And it was like, okay, they're going to take a step back this year. And they have, but again, I think it's helped that the whole region's taking a step back. But the development of that offense, who only returned 3 starters, to me, again, Jordan Prince, the game he had last week, 6 touchdowns. Yeah. I think Beckville's going to roll in this one, but I am curious to see how Big Sandy handles this. Their only loss on the year is to Lone Oak, who, by the way, is randomly 5-0 on the season. And so I'm curious to see if Big Sandy can stay around, because next week, them and Elysian Fields play, and that kind of feels like that's going to be Beckville, Elysian Fields, and Wascom and Union Grove are all kind of in that and don't forget Hawkins now. Hawkins is kind of, they've started out 0-2 in district, but if everybody remembers, they started the year off just putting up PlayStation numbers. Their quarterback threw 7 touchdowns against Mod. They scored 52 and 50 back-to-back weeks. Problem is they've played better defenses. They've kind of come back down, but they still can be competitive. They take on a rebuilding and a really struggling Ore City team this week. Again, it's finally fun to be able to get and to start talking these district showdowns. It just makes it, even the blowouts, it still means something.
Yeah. Here's a good one. Now it's Stratford versus Childress. Childress 2-3. Played a pretty tough schedule, though. Stratford's going to come into the game with Bryce Braden at quarterback, Julio Valdez at receiver. And I'll tell you, out in the big country, that's probably one of the better quarterback wide receiver duos out in the area, right? And Childress is going to have them on depth a little bit. This is going to be a humdinger of a game, though. I like Stratford because Stratford, I mean, they're just that good.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
but I think Childress can hang in there.
Yeah. You know, Childress being the 3A team, and as you said, they've played a really tough schedule this year. They've gotten the 2 wins that they should have. They lost to the 3 that they probably should have. Losing to Sunray a couple weeks ago. That game was close, though. This is one of the few non-district matches that we're talking that, I'm just curious to see if Stratford can, like you said, overcome the depth. I think they will. I think they'll win by 7, but I could also see them winning by 14 to 21.
Yeah, it could be a 1-point game. I mean, it's going to be that
it could
close.
be either one. Yeah, Drake Rabb, the quarterback.
This is just a pick'em game.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Childress. The last 7 years, it just feels like them and Lexington, who we're going to go see this week, both like the last 7 years, they always have a really good quarterback, and then something always happens to him. Yeah. And for Childress, just get healthy, and then you got that short district play. They don't start district play till October 11th.
And then one of my favorite teams in the state in Class 2A, the Electra Tigers. The Electra, I've always just been an Electra fan. Don't ask me why. It's Petrolia versus Electra. Petrolia entering the game 3-2. Electra undefeated 4-0. Go Tigers.
And they have struggled as of late. Like they have like last year. They were 3-6, and a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, they were 5-6. They've also had a 0-10, a 2-7, a 3-8. So I mean, they've already matched their win total over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Coach Josh McKitty, he's his son's the quarterback, Ian McKitty. I think he's a sophomore this year. They've really started strong, but all that can be erased if you don't take care of your first district game.
Right.
For these upstart teams, I don't know why. It doesn't matter who it is in that first district game. If you come out and lay an egg, it just feels like once that train gets knocked off the trail, I don't think you're going to have to worry about this week. I think the Pirates are solid, but I think Electra is at least a 2 to 3 touchdown favorite in this one.
I agree. I'll take Electra in this one.
All right. Is that it?
That's it.
That is it.
That is it.
It is bye
short week, man. Short week. Bye week.
We don't mind that. Anyway, that's going to do it for week 6. I want to thank our title sponsor, NeuroGuard Plus, also Big Country Blitz. We want to thank you for listening. You can also, if you only want to listen and not hear, you can see it on the screen if you're watching this one time. S2SGrantTerry.com is where I put up all of the audio only. I usually put those up Thursday morning. You can also, of course, find us on YouTube. Just go youtube.com/@L4 Media Company. You can find us on Twitter @Grant and Terry. You can like us on Facebook, Sideline to Sideline. Until week 7, he's Grant. I'm Terry. This has been Sideline to Sideline.
Seen it all when I was small and I sitting in my mind.